Coming up on show 806, Tesla just became the world's most valuable car maker. How did they do it, and what does it mean for the future? Well, stick around, I'll tell you more. Plus on the podcast today, I'm talking about Elon Musk wanting to bring the semi-truck to volume production. VW ID3 orders finally begin next week, and we got a clearer idea of when the ID4 launches in the US, and Ford's electric F-150 slated for 2022. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. In fact, wherever you're listening around the world, welcome to EV News Daily, the edition for Thursday, 11th of June. Martyn Lee here, going through every EV story so you don't have to. Apologies for the delay in getting this show out and onto the internet, by the way. The last few days most of my waking hours have been taken up working on something called Le Mans Virtual. So, you know, Le Mans 24 hours, obviously not happening because racing isn't happening, but a virtual version of it with some of the world's biggest motor racing drivers racing from home virtually on their sim setups. I've been making some podcasts for that and even some telly, doing some YouTube. So the day job, which pays the bills, does have to take priority. I'm sure you will understand sometimes. However, the race is just about to finish as of me recording this. And so that job is now well and truly done. Until next time. Well, let's start with the big story then. Tesla just became the world's most valuable car maker. Elon Musk and Tesla have done what many said would be the impossible, dethroned Toyota to become the world's biggest car maker. Let's look at some comparisons, should we? Well, GM is worth 41 billion. Ford, 27 billion. Who else is there? Fiat Chrysler, 20 billion. And Tesla eclipsing all three of those added together. I know, seriously. And so this has, when you combine those three car makers, really set the world alight in terms of the wider media, the ones that wouldn't normally cover EV stories. Analysts are upgrading them, like Dan Ives at Wedbush, upgrading them from $800 to $1,000 for his price target, and a bull case of $1,500. Electric's case is that you can't compare Tesla to other car makers because they're so much more in their tech-like approach to the automotive business, but also their whole ecosystem, selling cars and also energy and solar and storage. But they make all of their money, don't they, from selling cars. Let's call Tesla a car maker for the purposes of this argument, and not just doing it because they've been growing, but because others have been losing. Tesla have gone from a share price of just a couple of $100 not so long ago to over $1,000 now, and it was kind of a funny, happy accident, a coincidence that the share price topping $1,000 a share was also the moment they became the world's most valuable car maker. Toyota have lost 7% of their value since the start of the year. Toyota losing as much as 20% of their value at the peak of the global pandemic, but recovering some of that loss. And Tesla are here feeling reflective, saying that Tesla currently riding the wave of momentum that they have at the moment, but it wasn't so long ago in the grand scheme of things, which they were a small and unsuccessful car maker. Even the most ardent of Tesla fans won't mind me describing them as unsuccessful. Back in 2008, they were struggling and being plagued by issues with the car and the company themselves as well. But now, establishing themselves as a household name, not only in the US but around the world as well. An international powerhouse that combines electric mobility with energy storage solutions and even generation, and with the aura that exists around their figurehead Elon Musk. And more than a figurehead, don't get me wrong, he's not just there to add some gold dust and some shine to the whole thing. Of course, he is crucial to the operation, but of course, with his involvement with things like SpaceX and the general celebrity status which he now occupies, all of that just makes a very special feeling around those that are Tesla fans. And don't get me wrong, there are still plenty that don't quite want to be fully on board with the on the Tesla train, so to speak. They're not making trains yet, by the way. Well, they never say never. Talking Elon, he wants to bring the semi-truck to volume production in a new email to Tesla employees. Okay, quick caveat. This was posted as a screenshot onto the internet. So we are trusting the internet here, but let's go with it. Elon said it's time to start volume production of the semi-truck. The news broke as Reuters saw the email and said that Elon Musk confirmed it to be true, at least the email on Twitter. I'm not sure about the exact wording of it. Tesla was busy with other projects, but now it seems the right time to get the semi-truck to production. plenty of other companies interested in EV trucks and even hydrogen fuel cell hybrid kind of things as well. And Elon Musk wrote that the battery and the powertrain will be produced at the Gigafactory in Nevada, but that's no surprise. The interesting thing is most of the bodywork being done in other states. That's all that he would say. So we basically don't know yet where it's going to be assembled. The company still searching for the right site. Many say I will certainly nail my colours to the mast here, and you can, in a few months' time, if I'm wrong, come back and tell me I was wrong. It's going to be in Texas. 1000%. Elon is supposed to have said this, word for word, and I quote, "It's time to go all out and bring the Tesla Semi to volume production. It's been in limited production so far, which has allowed us to improve many aspects of the design. Production of the battery and powertrain will take place at Giga Nevada, with most of the other work probably occurring in other states," end quote. And you do wonder whether Elon writes these short, snappy, concise emails to all staff in the whole company, knowing that within minutes it'll be on the internet, and that, my friend, is a whole other day's worth of coverage by the media. So everything he writes to internal employees, he must think, right, well, this is going to be going public any second after I hit send, so what's the narrative that I want to paint? It must be pretty hard. He can't communicate with his employees confidentially, because he knows that anything he sends is going to be out there straight away. He probably can, obviously, trust a smaller group of people, but when you hit, all staff at the top of the email, you know that that's going to be getting out there. So that's got to be difficult as well for any manager to be able to talk about those things with the whole team, knowing that it's just not private. Well, Teslarati having a look at what we've got, or how we've got here, really. And what's rather interesting, they say, is that Tesla has placed the pieces for their battery endgame so many years ago in this giant chess game that we're playing, even before it could prove that premium EVs were even a viable business. Well, Tesla were building out Gigafactory in Nevada, and that will be dedicated to the mass production of battery cells. 4 years ago, they started to fund a group of scientists who were working with Jeff Dahn for the last 24 years on battery technology. Well, 4 years ago, Tesla decided these are the team that we want to back. They are pioneers in lithium-ion battery development, and that was a 4-year gamble, which is now, come battery day, going to see some spectacular results if the rumours are true. A key number of other pieces are all falling into place now, or at least in the near future, which will define the next era of EVs. Let's talk about the VW ID3. Big car for Europe, massive car for VW, and the final timetable for the start of Volkswagen's ID family has now been set. You can place a binding order for one of 30,000 models making up the limited first edition ID3. And you can place that next week on June 17th. So if you want to get your checkbook out next Wednesday, you indeed can, and Volkswagen will take your money. Now, as a token of thanks, say Volkswagen, for the loyalty of those customers, pre-bookers can choose one of two options. You can take possession of your ID3 and you will become a member of an exclusive club. Now, they have called this the First Movers Club, and the first movers will get their car in September. Now, VW have always said, we will deliver the ID3 on time in the summer. I think the official end of summer is sometime the second week of September. So as long as you get your car by then, as long as they make one delivery, they haven't let anybody down. So if you want to be in the early September club, you do get your ID3 before anybody else. You get some extra benefits of that, but you don't get the whole car. You get it missing some software. The App Connect function will be missing, and the distance feature in the head-up display won't be activated. You see, the software isn't ready for the ID3, and this has become a far bigger story than it really ever should have done. If Tesla had done this, and remember, Autopilot is still in beta, right, after all these years, Tesla can drip feed stuff out and say, but we're going to improve it. VW do the same, and they get crucified. So basically, if you want to be a first mover, they've made a special name for a special club of people that get their car first, but they're saying it's not complete. Just ship the car. Just ship... No, here's me giving VW advice. Just say, here's the car and it gets better soon. Don't create a special group of people that get a subpar product. Well, if they say, in VW's words, if you have more patience, you can choose the second option when signing your agreement for the ID3. That is a delivery date at the end of the year when you get the keys, and that's when you get all the functions. So here you are creating a two-tier system. So VW desperately trying to solve this problem of the software not being ready for their car. But look, the bits that aren't ready, I don't think are massively a deal breaker. So the App Connect won't work to begin with. In EV circles, that's quite a big deal. The app to control your car is very, very useful for most people. And the head-up display, I mean, man, it'll have the hardware, you just can't use it. Are those deal breakers? I don't think so. I would have just shipped the car, not made a big deal, and said by the end of the year, over-the-air updates mean it'll get better and better. Bonus, everyone wins. It's not going to be too long before everybody gets their cars, though, and then we move on to the next one, which will be the ID4, but I'll tell you that story in a moment. It's going to be possible to engage, for those first mover club people, those effectively beta testers, it's going to be possible to engage with VW directly. They're going to be looking for feedback from those drivers with everyday driving experience data logged for further development. To say thank you, all first movers who are leasing their vehicles don't pay any leasing rates for the first 3 months. Says Jürgen Stackmann, he's a member of the board of management at VW. The first edition ID3 has the 58 kilowatt hour battery and the 150 kilowatt motor on the rear axle. So the ID4, which I just mentioned, that is coming to the US first. Of course, the US doesn't get the ID3. September delivery means nothing for the US because the car isn't going there. They don't think it'll sell enough of them, so why waste their time selling them there? Deliveries of the ID4, we now know, according to Automotive News Europe, that's the crossover, is going to be in early spring. So the ID4, which will be sold in Europe and China, by the way, in case I'm giving the impression that we get ID3, US gets ID4, that will be sold everywhere. That is going to be early spring, and that's the crossover / SUV style car, the Model Y competitor, if you will. Sorry to bring it back to Tesla, it's a bugbear whenever I do it. I hate comparing everything back to the T word, but I would wait for that, personally. I think it's going to be a much more useful and actually good-looking car, but that's just my personal taste. If you're an ID3 customer, good on you. Hope you enjoy the car. I would wait for the ID4, which comes next spring. And then for us, we're going to have we've got a growing family at the moment. If we are looking at something bigger than the Renault Zoe, well, that kind of crossover-y style car, ID4, Model Y, that kind of thing would be very, very useful for us in the next stage of our families. Not cheap cars, are they? So we'll see what state the finances are in next year. Let's talk Mercedes-Benz EQA. It's an electric city car, SUV styling, but quite small. And it's been seen wearing less and less camouflage, and now we've got a photo here which shows just a little bit of camo around the front end. New images show the EQA, which is a full electric car based on the Mercedes-Benz GLA with very little camouflage, testing in Sweden, doing some winter testing. According to Car Advice, the EQA shares its platform with the GLA, getting a different front and rear and joining the EQC and the EQB in the Mercedes-Benz electric SUV family. A global reveal expected before the end of the year. Ford has spent the last few years promising it will make an all-electric version of their extremely popular F-150. Ford make more money from their truck business, their F-Series business, than many other car companies' entire business. Now the company is saying that the full EV version will be on sale in the middle of 2022. That's a 2-year wait, and I'm sure they wouldn't say that unless they needed that amount of time, but that's a 2-year wait. Come on, Ford, the technology is available now. 2 years away? The world is going to be a crazy place for EVs in 2 years. it better be good, is all I'm saying, when it launches. According to The Verge, Ford's chief operating officer is Jim Farley, shared the news yesterday but didn't offer any further specifics about the truck on CNBC. He did say with the release of the EV version will be a Ford Transit van as well, which is also now pushed back to 2022. While many other car makers are still making excuses to delay their mass electrification, says Push EVs, the standard range plus model of the Tesla Model 3 in China already has a safe, durable and simple and cheap cobalt-free battery. News broke earlier this year, now we know more about it. The battery comes from CATL, it's an LFP battery, and it has a very impressive profit margin on that car. Some say around 35% on the Standard Range Plus Chinese-made version. Push EVs looking at the technology of this new battery. Car makers that say they lose money on every EV they sell, that they're overpriced, and they can't sell them any cheaper are either lying or doing it wrong. Maybe it's both. In a more realistic WLTP test cycle, rather than the Chinese NEDC, the range would be about 218, 220 of the Standard Range Plus, and we still don't know the capacity of that battery or cells last time we checked, but if you do, correct me. Some rumours suggest the pack is made with 108 cells, and it's suggested that CATL are now using their new module-less cell-to-pack technology, or at least assembling them into 4 very large modules of 27 cells and then putting those together to make a battery pack. Well, Renault is offering new car buyers money off their electric models in the UK with £1,000 off a Zoe and £500 off a Clio and Capture plug-in. Retail customers purchasing the new Zoe can take £1,000 cash contribution off the price of their car, and as part of a switch incentive just launched, the Zoe Play, which is the R110 ZE50 battery. If you do it on finance, it's about £279 a month if you put £2,000 in as a deposit, and that's 0%. 0% over 2 years, and that's with the £1,000 contribution from Renault. As I have said many times on the podcast, I never recommend you take out finance to buy a car. I understand most people do, but when people say EVs are too expensive, my first EV was £6,000-ish. And you do not need to spend mega bucks to get an EV, and certainly in uncertain times don't recommend people get finance, but you know, I'm also not oblivious. I live in the real world and know that most people do. So those are the numbers if you fancy a Zoe ZE50. Right, question of the week on Sunday's show. We'll be answering your replies to the question how far a plug-in hybrid needs to go on EV power alone. Interesting one this week. My address for anything is hello@evnewsdaily.com, or leave a comment on the YouTube show. Well, thank you very much to 230 patrons of the podcast. Holy moly. Patreon's actually grown during COVID and lockdown. And I've seen, obviously, I'm sure you have, the reports of economies and tanking and people worried. Let me tell you, the emails I get are from people who are optimistic about the future. They're positive about EVs. They're excited about where we're going with clean energy and clean transport. And if that is a small indicator that people still want to support a podcast like this, and more people do, and you can, if you want to, have a look at so Patreon's a website. You can support creators. They do the billing and the secure credit card stuff. For the price of like a posh coffee or two once a month, you can put this show on the air. patreon.com/EVNewsDaily. There are 805 shows in the archive, and thank you to my premium partners, Phil Roberts of Electric Future, Brad Crosby, Avid Technology, Brightsmith Group for Clean Tech Talent, Porsche of the Village, Cincinnati, Audi of Cincinnati East, and Volvo Cars of Cincinnati East. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow, and remember, there is no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.